So this is Pastor Wally. He's my cousin, and his name's Wally Muncy, and he's the pastor of SoulFire Ministries. Very, very anointed guy. I'm very anointed minister of God, and I've worked alongside him for years. Back when I used to pastor River of Life Ministries in War, he was there every step of the way, and I've been at his churches that he's pastored over the years. And attended. I've spoken at his churches before, and I'm just very honored to have this man of God in my life. I'm very honored to have his wife as well, Betty. You may see her commenting on here. She's a very anointed minister of God as well, and we will be having her speak on here before long too. But everyone just make him feel welcome and take notes. Really enjoy the message today, and I'm excited to turn it over to Brother Wally. Go ahead and take it away, brother. I'm going to try to mute myself.
I want to thank you guys for having me here. We want to thank the Lord for an opportunity such as this. You know, most of the time, we're local here, and it's awesome to get to be a part of such a thing. If I were to title this message today, oh my. Josh, I don't know if I can sit here or not.
Pour it on it.
Josh, God had gave me quite a few things and quite a few titles. This message could go about 5 different ways. But what God's pointed out to me is to be happy in the season that you're in right now. Because the next season, you may be something else. God may be using this season to grow you, to propel you for where you're going. I'm going to be coming out of 1 Samuel. I'll start it in chapter 16. Now I'm going to read these introductory passages here. I encourage you to read chapters 16 and 17 in your own time. They're both very, very powerful scriptures. They explain a whole lot of things, but I'm just going to be pretty much paraphrasing a few things here. I've got a few points I want to get across, so I encourage y'all to go in and read the rest of this. And I don't want to leave out anything, but God pretty much this morning at about daylight, I think it was like 5 o'clock in American time, I had to rise up out of the bed and come back down here and revamp what I had. I mean, we often do these things. Can't count the times that I've had to do it myself, but I'm going to read verses 1, 2, and 3, and then we're going to get into it. Okay, chapter 16, starting in verse number 1. I'm going to be reading out of the King James Version Bible. I like to share which version I'm coming from. And the Lord said unto Samuel, How long wilt thou mourn for Saul, seeing I have rejected him from reigning over Israel? Fill thine horn with oil and go. I will send thee to Jesse the Bethlehemite, for I have provided me a king among his sons. Verse number 2. And Samuel said, How long? Samuel said, How can I go? If Saul hear it, he will kill me. And the Lord said, Take an heifer with thee, and say, I am come to sacrifice to the Lord. And call Jesse to the sacrifice, and I will show thee what thou shalt do. And thou shalt anoint unto me he whom I name unto thee. Okay, now from there on out, I'm just going to do what God showed me to do. My.
Pour it on.
My. Now, I've marked down in my notes to read the rest of this parts for yourself. In verse 1, the Lord told Samuel that he rejected Saul from reigning over Israel. And explained just how that he wanted the new king to be anointed with the oil from the horn that he had filled. You know, sometimes God gives us things to do that seem like they're pretty foolish. But no matter how foolish they seem, my, you better do it with everything that's in you, because God's rising up something.
Come on, preach.
My. Now in verse number 2, Samuel asked the Lord how he could go do this thing. Because if Saul found out what the Lord had told him, he would be mad or sore and kill him. Shoo. Shoo. Now I'm just going to explain this thing the way God gave it to me. So the Lord told Samuel a plan and explained it in detail exactly what to do. Gave him the exact blueprint, the detail of exactly what he wanted him to do. Shoo. At first he just got a little bit of it because he told him to fill that horn and go to this man Jesse and tell him to have all of his sons brought over to him, that God might use him to anoint the next king. My. Shoo. 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 And the way that he was going to not let Saul know what he was doing was to get a heifer and say that he was going to sacrifice to the Lord and invite Jesse to this sacrifice. And there he would reveal the rest at this time. God has an appointed time. Brothers and sisters, God has an appointed time for you to arrive. You know, we might be here just, a lot of us have cars, and on this little switch over here on the side, it'll say coast. A lot of us right now are just coasting in the middle of this thing.
Come on.
But before you know it, that coast button has to come off, and you got to put your foot on that gas pedal, and you got to go somewhere. My, are we going somewhere today? My. So when he gets to Bethlehem, he sanctified Jesse and all of his sons. Except for the one who was the youngest, out tending the sheep, whose name was David. He told him, "Are these all your sons?" He asked him, "Are these all your sons?" And Jesse said, "I have but one more, the youngest, out tending the sheep." My. It doesn't matter how old you are in this thing. God will use a willing vessel. And if you present yourself this vessel unto him today, he'll fill you and he'll use you in only the way that he can. My. And right there, he said, anoint him, for this is he.
Yes, that's good.
My. Whew. I feel the presence of the Lord in this place. Whew. Now I'm going to go over in chapter 17. I'm not going to read any of it. I'm just going to do the same thing I'm doing here. I'm kind of explaining what God's interpreted this to me today. I mean, you may get a total different interpretation of it yourself when you go in and read it, because the season that you're in. Whew. Whew. Now the Philistines were gathered together over on the opposite hillside from Israel and were set to battle them. You know, they both done made camps. They were going to battle. Whew. And there was a valley in between them. Now the Philistines, they had this champion by the name of Goliath. He was a giant. That's a different message for another time. I'm not going to get into really explaining that part, but just know that he was a giant. And nobody could defeat him until today. Today, something different was about to happen because God had chosen somebody for something. My. Shoot. Goliath called out to them. Shoot. Shoot, my. He said, choose you a man and let him come down to me. You know, he stood down there kind of calling out. He said, I know nobody in here could defeat me. Nobody in here could kill me. It ain't going to happen. He was boasting right there. He said, choose you a man and let him come down to me. My. Shoo. If he be able to kill me, then we will be your servants. My. But if I kill him, then you'll be our servants. No, that's pretty boastful, wasn't it? For real. I mean, shoo. He said, look how big I am, and look how small y'all are. Shoo. Now, David, he was a man of small countenance. He was a little bitty fella. Shoo. My. Size don't matter. Good Lord have mercy. To make a long story short, David did according to what he was told. And he rose up early to go and take visuals to his brothers. And that's how this thing started out. My. But he wound up facing this giant, Goliath, and killing him. Shoot. My point of this would be happy where God has put you in this season, because the next season is going to be even greater. The next season, God's rising you up for something. If you really get into the detail of these two scriptures that I got into today, we saw 3 seasons that David went through. He went from being a lowly shepherd boy, tending his father's sheep. My. I'm going to take his glasses off. He went from being a lowly shepherd boy, tending his father's sheep, went on down to being an armor bearer for Saul.
Yes.
And in that third season, where was he? He was king.
Man.
He was king of Israel. My. When Samuel the prophet, God used him for a lot of things. But to me, I like this one because he was listening to the voice of God, knowing if Saul caught on to what was going on here, he would have been killed. He would have been destroyed. Now, how many of us, when we get this word from God, know, and I know in a lot of different countries, for professing what we're professing here today, for speaking what we're speaking here today, in this time, you'd be killed. You'd be martyred. You'd be torn apart. You'd have limbs cut off. My. And it's coming to the point where for this Bible to be fulfilled, it's coming to a point where, Lord have mercy, they're going to try to take these Bibles out of our hands. That's why the Word tells us to eat this book. Shoot. Take it all, eat it all. Take everything we can get, because later you're going to need it. I heard a pastor speak. It's been years ago, but this stuck in my spirit. Take today what you're going to need for tomorrow. Take care of tomorrow today, In other words, get it while the getting's still good. While the Spirit's stirring you, while something rose up in you, take all you can get of that. Let that propel you for what's going to happen a little later. And Josh, I'll turn it back over to you. That's about all that God had put in my spirit for today.
Man, that was powerful. I love that.